So the Pittsburgh Steelers put Mason Rudolph his first chance to run with the first team offense. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about TJ Watt complimenting Devin Bush, some insight into what Devin Bush has been doing, as well as the Steelers' new running back, Master Teague. All of that right here in the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you a daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, hit the like button on this video if you enjoyed. Hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes. We thank you for making the Locked On Steelers podcast your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's actual professional therapy done securely online, available to people worldwide. And they have a special offer for my listeners. Get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/locked-on. That's BetterHelp.com/locked-on. We'll talk more about that later. Steelers fans, another day in the books at practice on Wednesday. Mason Rudolph got his shots with the first team. And I may be doing this show as I record at this moment alone, but there is a guest who I recorded with earlier. My boy Tony Serino is in Latrobe, and we weren't able to link up for a show like right here, but I did get to talk to him while we were out there. So the next about 8 minutes or so is going to be our conversation about what we saw at practice, how Mason Rudolph performed. We'll get to Master Teague in a second, explain that in our third segment, but I want to get to you guys to hear our observations just live from training camp, give you insight, because there's a lot of debate amongst Steeler Nation about Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky, where those guys stand. Here's me and Tony from Latrobe right after practice on Wednesday. Different. Normally, we're behind computer screens. Normally, Tony and I'm Chris Carter, host of the Locked On Steelers podcast. Normally, we're doing this over computer, but my man came all the way from Florida, all the way up to Latrobe. There was no way I was going to pass up hanging out with my guy and talking some football. Tony, what's up, dude?
I'm happy to be here, Chris. Happy to be here in person watching training camp. I know we're not. Some people are going to be disappointed. We were supposed to do this from my rental car. So
back in the day.
Yeah.
If you're not a longtime Locked On Steelers fan, it would just be audio, and we would just go into his car, eat dinner, and record. So that's what we're not doing today. We're gonna record here, and we just watched another day of practice here on a Wednesday. In 2 days, they got the Friday Night Lights practice where they'll put the pads back on. We'll see some backs on backers. But today they took the pads off. We got to see some things. We got to see our first 2-minute drill sets ever. Yeah. But also we saw Mason Rudolph run with the ones. I gotta say, Tony, you've been on the Trubisky train. You've been saying Mason. I'm a little confused who you're rooting for now.
No. I've been openly mocking Mason Rudolph at every chance.
Oh, this has been making fun of him.
I mean, listen, I've been on like a million podcasts from the start of camp until now, and I've just been mocking him time and time again. I'm way off on Mason. He is, Chris. He's QB1.
He's QB1.
He's the best one. Here's how I've been putting it, right? Because my favorite thing to do, when I sit up with the fans up there, my favorite thing is when I can tell when someone hasn't been to camp yet. Because early in camp, Mason will make a nice throw, and the fan will make some comment like, "Well, that's the only good throw he's gonna make today." Yeah, and I just sit there going, just watch. This is a different Mason Rudolph than what we've seen in the past. I think Mason is clearly the most comfortable. I think he's the most decisive. And here's how I put it, Chris. If the Steelers desire to be what they were in 21, which is, a little more safe offensively, right? Ben had that, very decisive, one-read, quick throw. If they want to be that, I think Mason Rudolph has, perfected that in this camp.
Right.
He's so he knows where he wants to go with the ball as soon as it's snapped. And there's very few plays where he's, kind of surprised at what he's seeing defensively or having to go through his reads. It happens from time to time, but he is by far the most decisive of the three. And I think it's what gives him right now, if you're going to say he has a leg up, that's why.
No, I agree with that, because that's the thing about this is when you're looking at Mason Rudolph and you're seeing what he's doing, and I said this from the jump, he's going to be the most polished, the most oiled in this system to go to second and third reads. But I will say, in the 2-minute drill today, Mitch Trubisky threw a touchdown.
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph, time expired.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that was the hesitation, because there were times when, it's fine when your first read's there. When your second check down, when your second read, there's a check downs there.
Yeah.
But when those two were gone, Mason was hesitating.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a big issue
for him, and that's something that he has to shake off.
Yeah.
When the pads go on and they're playing other teams.
Yeah. So that was, and look, I missed a little bit of part of that. So that was against the whole. He was all second team in that one, right?
Yes, that was all second team.
Because one of the big things that I've been thinking throughout camp is how much is Mitch's struggles, and Mitch has struggled, but how much of his struggles have been just because this first team defense
is just
ridiculous.
They're and to be fair, today the first team defense was missing T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward. Minka's been gone. Tyson's been gone.
Yeah.
Myles Jack didn't practice. No Ogunjobi. So like this was kind of like a first team defense without your stars.
Right.
And he was able to take advantage of it. But Mason, when he was in there against the first team defense, I mean, he made some plays, but still was kind of like, not lighting it up.
No, but I thought he did enough in this.
I thought he did it, yes.
I thought he did enough in this practice to where I would want to see him get even more. Though it was weird about first team reps today. They were splitting between Trubisky and Mason. So
right.
Mitch gets 3 reps, then Mason comes in for 3 reps. I do think, as crazy as it is, everything I've said about Mason, I think he deserves first team reps at this point. Like, I know that,
he's gonna get more because he told us in the media that he was gonna get some first team reps.
Yeah.
So that's been happening. But that's been something that's happening. We saw the first glimpse of that today. Wes Euler said it right on the show a couple days ago. It's not a real competition until we see someone else take the first team reps. Mason took some on Wednesday.
Yeah.
We'll see if in full pads he gets some, and if he gets to run a first-team offense. And the other thing to remember is on top of the defensive players being gone, still no Najee Harris, still no Deontay Johnson, no Chase Claypool, no Pat Freiermuth, and they also sat Chuks Okorafor. They are missing so many pieces too, and so there's a lot of things that have to be taken with a grain of salt. That's why we're telling you, hey, take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Don't overanalyze stuff. That's what I have there. I got to ask while you're here, Tony, because I want to get your evaluations. Who's your other camp favorites right now?
Oh my goodness, George Pickens.
Oh yeah, everyone.
I mean, here's how good George Pickens has been. We're on day 7, right? When he dropped that pass in 7 shots in the corner, there was like audible gasps.
Right, we were like,
yeah, people couldn't believe it. Because he has really made, we're only 7 days in, but he's made a name for himself for being able to make the spectacular catch regular. His ability, the body control he has, the ability for him to, keep all the attributes that you like out of him, which is his physicality, his ability to go high to the catch point, but, he still can contort his body in a million different ways. When he dropped that one, it was a shock. I think he's been the best. I've said this a million times. He's the best player on offense when he's out there because, and now some of that is the caveat of, everyone else was hurt, but still, he is the best player on offense thus far.
Now, Tony, you've been here for a couple days. Give me a defensive player that you really like that's not TJ or Cam or one of those plays. Who's a guy that stood out to you?
Well, Myles Jack. You talked about Myles.
Yeah, I did talk about Myles Jack. What have you thought about DeMonte KZ? Because I thought he's looked really good.
Yeah. And it brings me back to those days when the Steelers were trying to run those 3 safety sets, and it's like, KZ's so good right now, Chris, that I wonder if Tomlin's thinking, like, once Minka's healthy, how do I keep KZ off the field?
Yeah, it's a good question.
He's legitimately, like, starter capable. He's not Minka. Minka's an all-pro, so, Minka's going to start. But, like, KZ's not a backup right now. KZ's out there, and really the defense, they haven't really missed a beat. I mean, they missed Minka's elite playmaking.
Right.
But from a down-to-down, like, he's not making major mistakes. There aren't guys running free in the secondary, that kind of thing.
That's where I think he's going to come the best at, is that he's another deep safety.
Yeah.
He can be a ball hawk, doesn't have to be. But DeMonte KZ, I thought, has acquitted himself well. I think a lot of people are talking about how, who's going to be a slot corner, Arthur Marlette. I think maybe you start to see safeties rotate there, and I think that might be the answer.
Okay, yeah, it could be. Because from my thought is, I think Wallace and Witherspoon have been fine on the outside to the point where it just seems like the most obvious choice, which is put Sutton in the slot. That's the most obvious one. We're going to wrap. Can I give you, like, my hottest of hot takes?
Give me your hot take.
Robert Spillane's going to start over Devin Bush week 1.
They're in a rotation right now. They're in a rotation. I would not be surprised if you see that.
Yeah.
It's a battle. I will say Devin had a good day today.
He did.
He was on it. We'll see how he does when the pads go back on, because that's the biggest question they have.
Indeed.
Well, we're going to have more here in the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm Chris Carter. He's Tony Serino. I'll be back by myself soon.
So as you saw there, that was just us kind of talking, myself and Tony, and going over everything. And I do want to talk more about Devin Bush because, as I discussed, he struggled in backs on backers. Brian Flores dug up in him after he lost some reps to Benny Snell. But there's other moments he's looked good. I pointed out on Tuesday, I thought he did some better things. And on Wednesday, I saw more from him, and we even heard more about him from one of his teammates, and that teammate being TJ Watt. We'll talk about that in just a second here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. But first, we got to talk to you guys about Built Bar. Y'all know about Built Bar. They have the amazing Built Bars and the amazing Built Puffs. And the Built Puffs that we're telling y'all about right now are the cookie dough chunk puffs. And if you know about the puffs, you know that they have the marshmallowy center. That they're covered in 100% real chocolate, just like all Built Bars, but they're easier to chew, and the cookie dough flavor is amazing in the newest one that they've rolled out. It tastes awesome. I've had a few of them here. They are great. They're a nice, easy snack, especially when I'm at training camp. Sometimes you need a snack to get on the field just to get through the day because it is hot and you waste a lot of energy out there. But one way to help you with that is keeping these snacks on the go. Cookie dough chunk puff is a great flavor. It's light and chewy. It's got real cookie dough chunks, and again, covered in 100% real chocolate. And they're only 160 calories, but bring a whopping 15 grams of protein. Run to built.com right now and snag yourself a box for your family. It can get delivered right to your door for the perfect treat or the perfect snack to share with your family, or keep it all to yourself. Again, the cookie dough chunk flavor at limited time, so get to built.com right away so you can get your chance to get it. But when you go to built.com, be sure to use that promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your next order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 at built.com. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter. So that's all we're going to have for Tony for now. We're going to try to work out some things to get more of his reactions on the show because I love Tony. Y'all love Tony. There's always a good vibes when he's on the show. But, this is kind of his vacation. He's trying to enjoy camp. I'm not trying to make him work the whole time. So we'll split that up a bit more. But I did want to talk to you guys about Devin Bush because – I pointed out like I do with everybody. I point out when they struggle. I point out when they succeed. And Monday struggled. We talked about it. I think with Wes, he didn't look great. There were some moments there, and you wanted to see him get back to being the physical presence. He's not a dominating physical presence before he was hurt, but he was a good physical presence, and he didn't show that on the first day of pads. Second day of pads, better. This day, the first day out of pads, I think he got closer to where they need him to be. And so there's been questions like who's stepping up, who's showing out. And we have audio here from TJ Watt Wednesday morning talking after their first or early morning practice about who stepped up. And he mentioned Devin Bush and what the linebackers are doing. Here's TJ Watt. We do apologize. The audio is going to be a little different because we had some issues with it and there's no video with it, but you can check us out. Just pay attention. You'll be able to kind of pick out what he's saying here. It's a quick blurb here when he was answering a question.
Specific from any one or two players that they specifically you can tell worked on in the offseason right now?
I don't know. I think it's still early. Obviously, guys are making a lot of plays, but like we talk about, you can't win off of lack of execution on the other side. You got to be able to have clean, nice wins, good execution on your side. And
everyone's out of the way on that one.
But no, I mean, I think there's a lot of guys doing some really good things. I think Devin looks nice inside. Myles, Jack looks good inside. Guys are coming down, taking the double teams off the big guys. So it's been nice to see.
So I did that again. Sorry for the audio problems. There was a bee that apparently was about to go after TJ, and that's what you heard that noise was when he was kind of like trying to dodge it, and everyone was kind of laughing about it. But Devin Bush isn't playing terribly. I think he had a really bad first day in pads, but things that I've seen out of him, he's reacting well. When they're in those 7 shots, he's not the one getting beat over the middle. He's actually in position, challenging at the right spots. When they've been doing 11-on-11 and 7-on-7, he's been in the right spots. Especially, he's been very good at keeping plays in front of him and going and bringing down players. Now, I will say this. Devin Bush wasn't just drafted to be a credible linebacker. He was drafted to be an incredible linebacker, to be a guy that was going to change the position for the Steelers because they had been trying so desperately to figure out how to get that Ryan Shazier replacement in their defense. And he hasn't been that. He started off looking really well his first year and a half. Last year was rough. We've gone over that a lot. But I think right now the first step for him is, again, be that credible linebacker. And maybe he can become the incredible linebacker that we've seen in college. There were times it's like, okay, yeah, that guy's going to be a beast if he can just get in the right set and the right defense. a lot of what I saw on Wednesday when he was the best, he kept running backs in front of him, he kept receivers in front of him, and when even if he didn't make a play on the ball itself, he would keep him in front of him and minimize the damage afterwards. That is so important for this linebacker unit, to have someone who, hey, like, you're going to be able to put yourself in the right position in coverage, and even if you're allowing the underneath catch, you're putting them down quickly. I'm seeing those types of things from Devin Bush, and those types of things are really big for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as good as Robert Spillane has looked, and this kind of addresses what Tony was saying, as good as Robert Spillane has looked at times when they put on the pads the first day, he was physical, he was tough, he was rough. That's who he is. That's why he won in the hole against Derrick Henry 2 years ago in 2020. Everyone remembers that big hit he put on him. He's very good playing downhill, physical. If it's a run and he knows it's a run and he's not getting blocked by a guard, he's coming for that running back, and whoever it is, they're in trouble. But the problem is his versatility. He's not as shifty in open space, I think, as a zone defender. If the ball's thrown to him, he'll make a play on it. But he's not a guy that's as adept in coverage as Devin Bush can be. And part of the coverage part isn't necessarily just stopping the catch from happening. It's limiting the yards after catch. And that's where I think Devin Bush has been playing better than people have given him credit for. They're the little things that when I'm looking up, when I'm putting on all my notes on my phone here that I got during practice, sometimes if you're at training camp, by the way, if you're at training camp, don't be afraid to say what's up to me. I've had several of you guys come up, several audience members bring up Locked On and ask me like, hey, this is awesome. It's great meeting you. It's great meeting y'all. I don't have a problem with it at all. Please come on and just chat with me. I chat with several of you guys yesterday. It was awesome. I thanks to all you guys who are real Steelers fans coming out to training camp and hanging out and getting to know me. And again, you can also do that online. I'm not a distant person, but again, when I'm watching those practices, I'm taking notes and I'm taking a point like, man, he got to stop here. The sticks, it was 3rd and 8, but he made sure the tackle was at 6 yards. I'm seeing those moments from him. And again, this is very early in training camp. This is him trying to get his swagger back to where it was. If they can get that this year, I think they're in a good spot. Myles Jack, though, definitely the best linebacker on the field. I'm not ready to say that Robert Spillane is definitely the guy that's going to supplant Devin Bush. If he starts in place of Devin Bush in week 1, per Tony's prediction, I see it no more than a rotational thing. That's just a matchup like, hey, what do we feel as a defense is the best situation for this offensive set that's coming out to start the game? I think that's the way the Steelers will look at it with their off-ball linebackers. But make no mistake, I do think this is going to be a better linebacker year than last year with Devin Bush and Joe Schobert. Myles Jack is setting a completely different tone, and I think that's going to allow Devin Bush to kind of be himself a little bit more. Myles Jack also said it's been Devin Bush making a lot of the calls. He's been doing a lot of the communication, and I think that's part of what TJ Watt was giving him credit for, was like, hey, like, he's back to doing those things. If you remember, when Devin Bush came in his rookie year, Vince Williams was like, this kid is calling plays. He knows half the play, but what's going on? That takes time. And there was praise for him for being, a heady linebacker who knew what was going on. He didn't look heady last year. In fact, he was not doing the green dot stuff. So I think it's very good for Devin Bush that we're hearing these types of things about him in training camp. The biggest thing is when those pads go back on, you do need to see him win more. You do need to see him playing more physical, hitting the run fits, make some more plays in coverage. He does have an interception in training camp. He has had some good I think several good pass reps, but I think he needs to start putting it together more. But again, it's early in training camp. If you're designating someone as a failure or this or that from early on in training camp, you're doing yourself a disservice, because there's just too many days to keep going. I'm going to be a lot more tan than I look now by the time they end camp, because that's how sunny it's been getting. It's supposed to start getting hot. So by the way, if you are going to training camp, bring your water bottles, bring ice, bring whatever you can, because it is going to be hot. Stay hydrated. You do not want to go out here and have a heat stroke. So that being said, I want to switch it up a little bit and talk about Master Teague, the new running back in the running back room. We'll talk about what happened to Jeremy McNichols, where Master Teague is, and address more of the running back room, because we talked about Jaylen Warren yesterday. We'll discuss that in a second here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. But first, we got to talk to you guys about BetterHelp. They're one of our great new sponsors, and life is full of twists and turns, but it's important to show up for yourself through it all. And that's what BetterHelp's online therapy is here to help you do. They'll assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. I'm a person, I've dealt with a lot of things in my life. I've had to overcome a lot of obstacles. I've had doubts about myself, and there's plenty of times where there's just so many thoughts coming from so many angles. You need to organize it. And that's where therapy can help, especially with a professional therapist who helps you think through what you're going through, organize your thoughts, and organize a better plan of attack on how to attack each day one at a time and keep yourself in straight. And I want to make sure that you guys understand this isn't a crisis line. This isn't self-help. This isn't something that's like a quick fix over the internet or something you hear on like a crazy, on a crazy scam. This is real. BetterHelp gives you great professional therapists and are here to help you out. It's done securely online, and it's available to people worldwide. That's the other great part about this, is that it's mobile. It's with you. You carry it with you. So this gives you opportunities to access your professional therapist without having to go out of your way and take up all of your schedule. You can also chat with them with your therapist through the app at any point in the day. So this is an awesome app for you to try. With therapy, it can take a few tries to get the right fit, but that's where BetterHelp is here to help you with, because they don't charge you if you're changing therapists, because we all need to find the right therapist and the right fit to help us organize ourselves, deal with our daily lives, and get better mental health. And they have a special offer right now for listeners. If you want to try out BetterHelp, go. When you go to BetterHelp.com, be sure to use the 10% off for your first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. So when you go to BetterHelp.com, be sure to put the /LockedOn. That's LOCKEDON, Locked On, and you'll get your 10% off your first month of online therapy, again, at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm Chris Carter. We're finishing up the show today. So I want to go back to Master Teague, because we did, I mentioned at the top of the show so that you understood, hey, we are talking about that news, but I wanted to talk about what happened in practice and things that are being said by people that have been on the team and important players. Master Teague is there's also Master Teague III, by the way. I want to point that out there. This guy was my first pick in the all-name NFL draft this year. He is an undrafted free agent, a rookie in this situation. But Master Teague out of Ohio State. The reason he was signed was because Jeremy McNichols, who had missed the last couple of practices, he had like an injury to his shoulder, and it was thinking, oh, maybe this will be day-to-day. It wasn't. We started to not hear anything back from Mike Tomlin. Like, when Mike Tomlin goes silent about a player, that's when you should worry. Like, Myles Killebrew isn't back. That's not a good sign. But we've heard day-to-day about Pat Freiermuth, Chase Claypool, that Larry Ogunjobi's coming up, that Minka Fitzpatrick's coming back, that Tyson Lewis coming back. All those are good signs. Those guys are coming back at some point in time, and probably very soon. But Jeremy McNichols, the Titans running back that they signed, unfortunately not the case. And it's just tough. It's just part of the game. Injuries happen. But Master Teague, an interesting prospect. Now, Master Teague comes with some interesting parts to his game. For one, he was undrafted. He signed an undrafted free agent contract with the Bears and was then waived 3 days later. And when you look at him, there's two things to look at here. One, there's his stats in college for Ohio State. In his final season, he only played 7 games. He was the third running back on the team behind Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams, and a good Ohio State team. So Master Teague, you're going to look at his stats, they're not going to impress you. What stats you could look at, though, that impress you were his combine stats. This was a guy who's 5'11", a little over 5'11", 221, had really good numbers almost entirely across the board. He had 27 reps on the bench press. That's amazing for a running back. Ran a 4.44 in the 40-yard dash. Amazing for a running back. His splits at 20 and 10 yards shows that he was very explosive. His vertical, 36 inches, not crazy, but good for a running back. His broad jump over 100 inches, I believe 101 inches. That's amazing. That shows you're explosive as a running back. His shuttle, 4.29 seconds and a 6.95 3-cone drill. All those things charting where he's at, where you hope a running back to be or above. Biggest thing, though, you look at his lack of production in college and you say, man, does he have the vision? Is he going to be able to put things together? How does he work in a new team? But comparatively to like Benny Snell, those are much better numbers athletically that he's coming to the NFL with. And if he can get that 4.44 speed in action, I think that could be very interesting to see, giving the Steelers another option. But as I said on yesterday's show, Jaylen Warren, Willie Parker's long lost cousin, he's been looking really good in practices, and it's going to take Master Teague probably about a week before I think the Steelers start to say, hey, get in there with the first and second team. So let's see what you can do as a true backup running back and a candidate to help Najee split some carries up during the season. But I like Master Teague's profile athletically. The Steelers just still need to find a reliable running back who knows what's going on, and a veteran who I think that can kind of handle business. And maybe that veteran is Benny Snell. I will say that Anthony McFarland has had a few nice runs too. His speed has been kicking in at training camp. But it's tough to judge when the pads come back off, because again, some guys are going to have speed. You're not trying to hurt each other without pads on, and you can't like get fully physical the way that you normally do. We saw a little bit of that on Monday and Tuesday. Again, we should see more of that Friday. I believe they're taking off Thursday from having pads. They still are practicing, but they're not wearing pads Thursday. They'll put them back on Friday so that they can put on a show for fans at Latrobe Memorial Stadium. By the way, if you're going there, let me know. It's awesome. It's great to see fans there. It is a fun thing. They do fireworks at the end. It's a night. It's like Friday Night Lights. So it's a cool feeling if you're a Steelers fan and you haven't seen that yet. But again, about the backup running back position, this is still wide open. I asked Omar Khan about this because he spoke with us, and he said, we're just looking for who fits. And it's not saying that we don't think that all the guys in there could end up being the backup guy or the guy that that sits behind Najee, but it's obvious they're not comfortable with any of them just yet necessarily, that they have won this job. And until they're comfortable with that, they're going to probably stay aggressive about this. So the backup running back spot, I think it's still very much a race to watch, especially while Najee Harris is being rested. Remember, he got his foot stepped on Monday by Myles Jack, and that kind of he kind of came up funny. And as soon as that happened, the Steelers staff was like, "Nope, you go take a seat over there." And ever since then, he's been showing up in his stuff. He's been showing up in his jersey and his pants and everything. But he's also not like putting himself on the line, because they're like, look, dude, just go get healthy. We know that you're good. We're going to find out if these guys are good. And I thought I saw Master Teague out there on Wednesday. I thought it looked fine. Nothing really notable yet. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how physical he can get in backs on backers when he gets his shot, and who all he can take on. Does he beat them? Does he lose to them? How does, what does he need to improve on? He's very young. So I think that's another great aspect of this, is that, he's a guy, he's only 22 years old. So I think that's an advantage, that you'll have time to kind of see what he has. And, if he's still not even good enough for the team, you deal with that, when we deal with that, and you look at, your Jaylen Warrens, your Benny Snells, your Anthony McFarlands, and everybody else in that mix, Mataeo, Durant, and those guys. But again, I do think it's going to be very interesting to see, can Teague set a different pace? Because I think that's another thing the Steelers are looking for, is that they want running backs who can be different than Najee, not clones, not the same person, not do the same thing. They want, hey, can you be a speed option? Can you make defenses think in a different way when you're on the field? They have to, reorganize how they're going to do things. Can we put you guys on the field at the same time and force them to think, wait, is this one going to go this way, and we have to react in this manner, or is that one over there going to go the other way, and we have to react to that in a different manner? So a lot of things can happen there. We'll see how that develops. But I think the other thing that's really cool about that is that the Steelers, in all of their quarterbacks, they have guys who are not afraid to use their legs. Yes, even Mason Rudolph, he can move his legs. I think he had the longest Steelers run of the season last year when he trucked that poor man against the Detroit Lions with his long QB run last year. So he's not the best at moving, but he can move. Mitch Trubisky, better at that. Kenny Pickett, better at that. He's had some really good reps lately. Kenny Pickett that I'm talking about, I think he's been stepping up. He's been getting better. And back to the whole, first team thing. Mitch Trubisky was running the first team offense for the 2-minute drill. He went 5 of 7, marched him down the field, threw a great touchdown pass in the back of the end zone to George Pickens. Afterwards, Mason Rudolph came on, went 5 of 9, time ran out on him. He didn't do as well. He looked indecisive. That's one thing that I think Mason Rudolph has had, and I alluded to this with Tony towards the end of our talk, but that's been Mason's biggest advantage in these practices, is that he has known this is his offense. He knows what it's supposed to do. He has a better sense of, okay, when this isn't working, I go here. If that's not working, I go here. His progressions, his understanding of how to counter different situations. That's where I think Mason Rudolph has been the best at so far. But that gap is going to start narrowing the more that these guys get to practice. And I think you're starting to see that. Kenny Pickett's making a lot of improvising plays, or he's kind of stepping up, rolling out, and just finding the guy. That's very Ben Roethlisberger-like in his early days. But you need to start winning more battles with just, scheme, with just concept. Like, okay, I read this, I took it apart. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna be able to. I'm gonna take that win and go back into the huddle and do it all over again. That's what I think these quarterbacks are going to start doing more and more as time goes on. But as we also talked about, it's a loaded defense they're going up against. And I think that's a serious challenge, especially with all the backups that are on the offense, regardless of whether it's Mason Rudolph or Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. But as we keep going through camp, I think we're learning more and more about these guys. I'm really intrigued to see how Mitch Trubisky plays against Mason Rudolph in this Friday Night Lights, I guess, against Mason Rudolph. They're playing off of each other, you know what I'm saying, as quarterbacks. They're in the same competition. But all three of these guys should be commended for how they're handling it. They're being very professional. There's no petty shots at one another. All seems like legitimate, solid competition. And Mitch Trubisky's even helped Kenny Pickett. And there's been guys pointing things out for each other. This is going to be a fun camp to keep watching. We'll keep you updated with tomorrow with more on your Pittsburgh Steelers and what's going on at training camp. Thanks again for tuning into the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. If you want to check out the show, Locked On Steelers, we're on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, hit the like button on this video. If you enjoyed, hit the subscribe button to our YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. And this is where I tell you to go read SteelersNow.com. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I don't work there anymore. And it's nothing bad about them. It's just, hey, things happen. I got a new opportunity. But I'm very excited to announce that I am joining the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I'm going to be writing about Pitt athletics while I'm there. I was on the Pitt beat for DK Pittsburgh Sports for 2 years. That was a fun time with that company. I'm coming back with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. It's a great opportunity. It's full-time pay, and it does not preclude me from doing Locked On. It was part of the agreement that I would be able to keep doing this show while doing that beat, and I am so excited. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette is the paper here that I've been reading since I was a kid. It was the one my dad always made me pick up, and it's crazy to think that, hey, I'm actually going to get my name in the paper that I was reading when I was growing up. It's wild. If you've known me throughout my journey, I've been on blogs, I've been on podcasts, I've been on shows, I've done all this stuff, and for me to get this, it's truly overwhelming with how awesome this feels to get this opportunity. So I'm very excited to that. So you'll see that coming up in the next couple weeks. Still got some time to onboard with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, but you'll still see me at Steelers training camp. You'll still see me at Steelers practices, and you'll still see me contributing everything here on the Locked On Steelers podcast on your Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Thanks again for checking out the show. We'll be back tomorrow. We got Jenna Harner coming up. We're going to have some tough schedule conflicts because of camp, but we're hoping to make it work so that she's on with us for the Friday edition of the Locked On Steelers podcast. We will see you then.